can you maybe highlight or give a better understanding of the distinctions of like, is there a difference between killing and murdering, or is it just all anytime we take life, do we just use these two terms synonymously? Are there real differences and distinctions there?
Yeah. I think the basis of the distinction is that murdering is to take the life of an innocent person.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, to what extent need the person be innocent? I mean, we all incur justly the condemnation of God by virtue of original sin, personal sin. But nevertheless, the idea is whether or not within this relationship or within this polity, you are condemned before the law, or you are condemned kind of in our interaction. So when the Lord kind of repromulgates the old law or brings it to fulfillment, brings it to perfection, he says, anger, hatred, they're right out. So I can't ever will evil qua evil, but I can will evil qua good, in the sense that I can will punishment. I can will your reform. I can will that you be deterred from future action. So there are appropriate ways in which we can interact and relate in the setting of the polity, which might involve me imposing harsh punishments upon you.
Yeah.
All right? And the idea here is that, ideally, we will everyone a kind of equal partaking or an equitable partaking in the good of our common life. But there are going to be people who step outside of that. There are going to be people who transgress the bounds of what is understood by our kind of compact or our agreement. And when they do so, the question is, what are the legitimate means or what are the just means whereby to bring them back within its bounds, or whereby to set them at a distance so that they no longer imperil our common good?
Yeah.
And so the idea is that murdering is without just cause, right? Murdering is to take an innocent life, whereas killing can be deployed for just cause. That is to say, to take a life which is no longer, at least in this respect, innocent. So I think that, that kind of gives us, on the one hand, a basis for making these distinctions, but nevertheless, as Christians, we remain challenged by the gospel testimony, in the sense that we can never get used to, I'll just do this and I'll just do that, and it's fine because I have juridical or I have legal basis for it. Because the idea is that we can never will evil qua evil, which means we can never hate.
Yeah.
We can never give vent to our anger without channeling it virtuously in justice and mercy. Or you can think about the pertinent things of vindication as the part of justice which governs the way in which we mete out punishment. So, yeah.
No, I think that's so important to recognize that, oddly enough, and this seems so kind of weird to say, but it does have a place. There's this kind of natural intuition that it's no, we want to preserve life, right? But and there can be a place, but then we have to kind of begin to wrestle with, okay, how does that actually look? What governs those kind of what proportions make sense, and the ability to kind of direct or kind of move towards a common good. But like you said, we can't will evil qua evil, and that is the bloodthirsty ones that are just thriving off of spilling blood and as much as they can, as if it's an adrenaline thing, but that it's always framed within a greater context, and we can't just kind of keep a tight vision on it, because then it loses the context of the entirety of life, of loving God and loving neighbor, while at the same time loving yourself in all of this. So as we kind of begin to look at what are the contexts where, okay, it does have a place, and that seems so weird to say that there may be, and I would even venture so far to say there is a place for this. What are some of the contexts then that lead us to this deeper understanding what that real place is, and then where not to be?
Yeah, I think the basis is that we're more responsible for ourselves than we are for others.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. So it's I'm more responsible for loving my own soul than your soul. I'm more responsible for loving my own body than your body. Because the principle of union, our coming together, is unity, right? So I'm closer to myself than I am to you,
right?
Potentially and actually. I mean, God's closer to each of us than we are to ourselves, so we ought to love God the most. But then we love ourselves next most.
Sure.
And then this sense of ourselves can be extended to my family or to my polity. So I'm more responsible for my family than for your family. I'm more responsible for my polity than your polity. And if you or your family or your polity poses a threat to mine, all right, I'm not just being kind of clannish and tribalistic here and thinking but we've just got good, sound, philosophical, metaphysical basis whereby unity, union, all right? So I'm responsible for the integrity of my person, of my family, of my polity. And if someone else poses a threat to that, I can deploy a certain force so as to repel that threat. And that's just like the basis of it. Like it's kind of simple. Father Bonaventure.
Yes.
Do you prefer the Jurassic period or the Cretaceous period?
Ooh, Jurassic period, because I don't know what animals are in the Cretaceous period. Wait, are those little shell thingies?
I don't know what you're referring to.
The Cretaceous period?
No, that'd be a crustacean period.
Are we talking Cambrian explosion?
Can't rule it out. Subscribe to Godsplaining.